The interstate system, an integral part of transportation in America, connecting the major cities together for economic, travel, and military purposes. Some of these highways are incredibly important to the nation and create safer and quicker travel between areas. But others aren't as useful, using government dollars to create unneeded routes that serve no major purpose. Today I'm going to go through some of those and give you some more of the most useless interstates in America. Before that though, I want to ask if you would please consider subscribing to the channel. We make content like this every week, so if that's the kind of stuff that you're interested in, please click the subscribe button and check out my other useless interstate videos. Thank you. So what we're looking for here is interstates that either don't serve a major enough purpose to warrant upkeep and construction costs, highways that shouldn't have interstate designation, and interstates that just don't make any sense. Mostly for these videos we stay in the eastern US, which has seen more politically driven historic freeway building that has resulted in these useless interstates existing. But they do exist all over the country. So let's start off with our first highway of the day, I-790 in Utica, New York. So this is a 2.4 mile route that extends from I-90 and connects into downtown Utica before abruptly ending and turning into State Highway 12. I have a lot of problems with this road, so let's go through them one by one. First of all, the actual route is really under a mile long, with the interstate designation ending here and going to the interchange with I-90. This would make it one of the shortest interstates in the entire country. But instead, the I-790 designation turns to the east and stays until the next interchange. Eastbound I-790 ends slightly earlier than westbound 790. All of this portion of the highway is already I-90, and so it doesn't at all need to have the I-790 designation. My second problem with this interstate is that the freeway continues another 1.2 miles at full interstate standards before its first intersection. I don't understand why I-790 wouldn't just continue until the first intersection instead of stopping and becoming a state highway early on. My final problem is that Utica is a fading metro area that has struggled with stagnant economic and population growth. The city doesn't really need a connecting interstate, and it definitely doesn't need a divided highway going straight through the city, splitting it down the middle. This is an overall terrible interstate. Next up, we have one of my personal favorites of this video, in a bad way. I-155 in Missouri and Tennessee. Now, usually when I say what an interstate is, I'd put the city along with it instead of the state. But this interstate is in the middle of nowhere, and so there really is no city. The route is 26.7 miles long, connecting I-55 across the Mississippi River to Dyersburg, Tennessee. Now, this is one of those interstates where you don't have to look very closely to see the problem here. What is this interstate serving? So I think the main reason it exists is as a Mississippi River crossing. There are no other crossings between Memphis, Tennessee, and Cairo, Illinois, besides this one right here. So that's going to be the main reason they built the interstate. It also serves the large metropolitan area of Dyersburg, Tennessee, which holds a population of 16,000 and lost 6% of its population since the last census. Basically, I just don't understand why they decided to make the crossing here. It's in a very out-of-the-way spot, connecting to an unimportant town. And if its only real use was to cross the river, they should have just put it in a more straight area to get to Jackson. Maybe somewhere down here connecting to Ripley would be better. Either way, it's just in a very odd spot in the middle of nowhere, and absolutely did not need to be built. Next up, we have I-675 in Saginaw, Michigan. This one is a little more arguable because it does technically serve a purpose. But I still have a good argument as to why it shouldn't really be here. So I-675 is a 7.7 mile loop route connecting into Saginaw, a city with a population of 43,000 that is shrinking pretty steadily. So for starters, the city does not really need a loop spur route. Its traffic volume is just not in a place anymore where it needs an interstate route. It was built all the way back in the 70s, so it's just not in that place anymore where it needs this full freeway, splitting the city in two. But that's not my main problem with this route though. What annoys me the most about this is that it doesn't even actually loop around the city. It passes to the north of the downtown before immediately turning back to the north and coming back into I-75. It only loops around a little bit of Saginaw, as well as the more rural Carrollton Township and Zilwaukee. If you're going to build a loop around a city, go for it. But at least loop it around the metropolitan area, instead of completely missing the bulk of the city. This was the plan for the freeway as far back as 1959. The plan was always to only loop around the northeast portion of the metro and miss most of the major city. Why wouldn't they just make one route that connects into the downtown before ending and turning into a surface road? If you aren't going to actually loop around the metropolitan area, the route doesn't need to be a loop. It just makes no sense to me, which completely puts the route on our list. So next up on our list, we have I480 North in Cleveland, Ohio. This one is a little more petty, but I still think it needs to be said. So my problem is not with the actual route. It forms a freeway triangle and makes the whole area a lot more efficient, and so my argument is not there. It's with the designation. So it being called I480 North on its own is pretty dumb in my opinion. Just make a new route name instead of causing the confusion of giving it the same name as the highway passing to the west. But even worse, there's basically no signage that would tell you that this is I480 North. There's just one interchange, and the signage on that interchange just shows the highways that I480 North is connecting to, instead of this highway. And so that brings me to something I've been trying to tell people for a while. Why does it even need a number at all? If you aren't going to use it for signage, it's basically just a glorified exit ramp anyways. Why don't you just designate it as a long ramp and not give it a number at all? There are a lot of places where this is a problem, including the next highway we're going to talk about. I really just think that the government is overcomplicating things by giving highways that don't actually need to be spur routes their own designation. You can still make it part of the interstate system without having a number attached to it. So next up, that brings us to I-865 in Indianapolis, a 4.7 mile route in the northwest corner of the metro. So this route is used for one thing only, to connect I-465 into I-65 as a straighter route. I-465 takes a turn to the south, and so there needs to be a route there in the north to connect it into I-65. Now, I-865 has no exits or ramps. It's quite literally just a glorified exit ramp to connect two actual interstates. My argument here is that 5-mile exit ramps should be normalized, and that there shouldn't be any designation at all, because it doesn't matter if there's a number. Nobody is using this route for the route. They're only using it to connect to the next route. If you just removed I-865 from the signage, I feel like it would actually get rid of a lot of confusion and work in exactly the way you want it to. And so that's all I have for today's list. There are still so many interstates out there that help out the economy and overall transportation ability in the country. And no matter what your thoughts on interstates are, you can't deny the effect they've had on the nation. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the members this week: Kazin Zylo, Boss King Inc., Uncouver, Pol Pot's Piehole, Blang, Christopher DeAngelis, JL, Darkbird, Obigrad, Elijah Pass, Big Pasty, Jeremy Crone, Wolflink, Snyder Swine, Florida Jake, Somnam Woods, Stormy Knight, Nikita Martinoff, Haystack, Benjamin Whiting, Ryan Devins, Hazev the Wolf, Dominic Psyche, Rosebud 4, and Bryson. I really appreciate you all, especially the people who have been around for a while now. People like Dominic Psyche who have been here for 10 months. I really appreciate you. You help out the channel a ton. If you want to become a channel member, the link is down in the description below. It's just an extra thing if you want to help out the channel. The money goes straight into my savings for college and like a new car and stuff. So if you just want to help me out as a person because you really appreciate the videos, this is the best way to do it. Thank you.